Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
All right. What is up, everyone? It's Wednesday night. I don't know about everybody else in the country, but here in the Midwest, we have a heat wave. It's like 75 degrees right now, but it's about to storm because it's spring, so obviously it's tornado weather. Love tornado weather. It's the freaking best. But Amon, you are in what I'm assuming is probably warm North Carolina.
Not today, actually. North Carolina likes to be a little bit bipolar with it. So today was kind of chillier. But tomorrow's going to get back into the 70s. So that's always good news.
Yeah, I kind of miss being, in the DC, Virginia area, because at least I could kind of reap some of that warm weather. But yeah, I almost don't miss this bipolar Midwestness. It gets kind of old pretty quick. And of course, as y'all notice, unfortunately, we don't have Joe tonight. Joe is being a family man, taking care of the family currently, so Joe's not able to be on. But Joe's watching. Joe's going to critique us, probably roast us in the comments. That's perfectly fine. We're going to roll with it because it is what it is. So we are coming up super close now to the end of March Madness. We have our final four teams set. We have University of North Carolina, we have Duke, we have Kansas, and we have Villanova in the Final Four. Amon, to you, which team do you think has the most to gain out of a win? And keep in mind, all four of these teams have 3 championships or more in their school's history.
Yeah, I think the obvious answer would be Duke, right? You're talking about Coach K's last year. You're talking about sending him off with the championship. Just became, I believe he has the most Final Four appearances. I think he just passed who was sitting at number 1. So he now is the number 1 guy in terms of Final Four appearances. And to send him off with a national championship would be kind of ideal. And then you talk about the road to go and do that. You go and beat North Carolina. That would be great. I know it'd break Joe's heart, but that would be just, that little icing on the cake for Coach K and then cutting down the net. So I think the quite obvious answer would be Duke. I'll throw around this name in Villanova. Villanova has won 2 championships as recently 2016 and 2018 to win a third here in 2022. Would kind of make that Jay Wright era Villanova team a dynasty. And I think that'd be really big for that program.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Duke, just because it is Coach Krzyzewski, it's his last game, and it's going to be one of his last season. And you got to think about it. He's going up against a team now that he's never faced in the playoffs. They've never faced in the Final Four ever in the history of this whole entire program. And what better way to get revenge against the team that spoiled your last home game, the big game of all big games, than to try to beat North Carolina in the playoffs. And according to Joe, the only North Carolina team that matters is UNC. Yeah, to me, I feel like Duke is really what matters, because now the big question is once Coach K leaves, where does Duke go? How does the program continue? Does the program continue to succeed once Coach Krzyzewski leaves? Like, is he still going to be, are they still going to be successful? There's apparently reports he's still going to keep his office on like the 6th floor. Now he's just going to be like an ambassador. He's not going to have anything to do with the team. From what we know about Coach K, do you think he stays retired, or you think it's one of those kind of almost like how we're probably envisioning Sean Payton of like, no, maybe he's just taking a break. He's coached for essentially ever. I mean, the man probably doesn't get a break very often except for the off season. So do you think he continues to stay in retirement, or do you think he comes back and says, no, I'm going to coach. I still have a lot left in me?
I think he's going to stay in retirement. I think he might have some input just being at Duke. And I think John put it in the comments. He beat me to it. John Shire, who he's handpicked to be his replacement, has been recruiting there for the past 7 years. They lost 2 recruiters 7 years ago. And then basically Coach K's been walking Shire through the process, and Shire is the guy who recruited Zion and RJ and those guys to come play for Duke. Of course, the name of Coach K and Duke holds that much weight, but Shire knows what he's doing. So I think Coach K trusts Shire to do the job, and I think he's going to stay retired. Sure, I think he might have some input. He might say, hey, look, Shire, just do this. This is the guy you should look for. But he's not going to be completely hands-on where he's back at the head coaching spot. He's going to be that mentor kind of role.
Yeah, and I think that's the idea. But again, I kind of wonder because they were saying that he doesn't really have a lot of hobbies. He doesn't golf. He doesn't read. He likes to garden, but he doesn't really like to do much else other than, coach. And of course, obviously, if he's still there, more than likely they're going to bring recruits in. They're going to be like, hey, look at, Coach K's office. He's a coaching legend, et cetera, et cetera. So I think he'll still probably be used in a pretty big manner in that regard. And I hear my cat digging all the litter out of his litter box. He is such an asshole. That's my stray. Anyway. So yeah, so I think we're both in agreement that we think Duke is probably the one, because I mean Kansas is still going to pretty much stay a powerhouse. Kansas, They're pretty relevant when it comes to basketball. Same with Villanova. Villanova's been hot the last couple of years. Like you said, I think they've won 2 national championships within the last 4 years. So
yeah, 2016, 2018.
So still a very hot, very competitive team. And then obviously you have UNC, who UNC's there, and the fact that they're doing as well as they have been. With basically a rookie head coach, in his first season with North Carolina is absolutely, extraordinary. And the fact that he can, boast on his record, he spoiled Coach K's last home game, potentially could spoil Coach K's last game for, the rest of the season. But we'll move in a little bit into some NFL. So Mike Tomlin said recently that he owed it to Brian Flores to bring him onto his staff. Is that a part of a larger problem that the NFL has as far as getting minority coaches hired?
I can see how that can be, yes, because he didn't owe it to Brian Flores. Brian Flores deserves it. And I think that terminology is kind of where it gets misleading, in the sense of when you say I owe it to someone, it almost feels like they didn't work for it, or they didn't earn it, they didn't deserve it. And that's not true. And when we talk about minority coaches, there's a lot of them that deserve head coaching jobs. They're not owed it. They're deserving of that. And I think if you change that terminology, the connotation of it changes for a better light and positive. Again, Brian Flores, we talked about on the show, he's a winning coach with pretty much a bottom 5 roster, a quarterback that we have no idea what the situation is, bad front office, and he was still able to win. So when you're able to do that, you can coach in the NFL. So I don't think Mike Tomlin had any malintention or didn't want, try to throw shade on Brian Flores. But I think when we talk about the subject, we got to be careful with what the words that we use. And instead of using owed, I would like to hear him say that Brian deserved to be on his staff.
Yeah. John, I want to say real quick, we don't talk about trash on here. I got no reason to talk about a garbage ass purple and gold team that can't even get into a playoff tournament, and I don't care what
can't even get into play in.
Right, I don't care what Freddie says. Yes, they're the most dangerous team in 2012. He's 1,000% correct. If we could rewind the clock 10 years, this would be the most dangerous Lakers team freaking ever. But so are most nursing homes. Most nursing homes are dangerous. People don't know this, but they are. So I'm not. No, we're not talking about the Lakers. Lakers are trash. Yes, they're a big brand. I don't talk about the Cowboys all the time. I can't. It's annoying. I'm not going to be that guy. I can't be that fan. We're not going to talk about he who shall not be named up north who wears green and yellow. What is with these yellow teams that are just hot ass? I don't.
That's
understand.
A good point. That's a good.
It's all yellow.
Yeah, if your team got yellow, you might got to change it. You got to switch it around. Except for the Warriors. I guess the Warriors, you got to take them out there.
Yeah, the Warriors are okay, but you look at Washington, red and yellow.
Yeah.
Packers, green and yellow. Lakers, purple and gold. Yellow, technically.
Put a nickel.
Yeah, so no, I can't stand it. I can't stand talking about just I get it. It's a big brand, it's a big name, but Like everybody knows they suck. Like they're trash. They're hot trash. Everybody knows that. I don't need to talk. I don't need to remind everybody that hey, the Lakers are ass right now. Okay, guys.
It's fun to do sometimes. It's sometimes you got to just do it. As a Boston Celtics fan, I relish in it sometimes, just throwing it out there.
Oh, of course. I mean, and if you're a fan of another team, you have to. You have to. I'm not putting a nickel in the jar. I did not name him specifically. I don't have to put a nickel in the jar. Stop it. But anyway, as far as Brian Flores, I kind of agree. I don't feel like Mike Tomlin owed him to be able to get onto the Steelers roster. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm looking at this like any other organization would look at it. You want the best coach, you want the best players, you want the best things around in your organization. Pittsburgh kind of reminds me a little bit of Chicago in the fact of what have the Bears always been known for like the last 100 plus years? Defense. What has Pittsburgh also been known for years? Defense. The Iron Curtain, the Steel Curtain, whatever you want to call it. The Steelers are known for big defense and big names. So who do you get to help bring in, to help coach TJ Watt, to help coach Minka Fitzpatrick, to help coach who's their interior? Miles Jack. Do they still have Cameron Hayward?
Yes, Cam Hayward is still in town.
Yeah. So you have a great core defense, and that was like their only benefit to that whole like 11-0 start until they fumbled against Washington, and then everything finally came crashing down. So why wouldn't you bring a coach of Brian Flores' talent into that? But I agree. Mike, you don't really owe him anything. Like it's not like Mike Tomlin was on the street. He got picked up by Brian Flores. Like, hey man, you're out on the street. I'll give you a second chance, and you can go flourish and be great from there. No. Mike Tomlin is an established coach. He maybe has a relationship with Brian Flores. Hey, they've competed against each other. You look at how long he was a coach of your Patriots team.
Yeah.
How often did Mike Tomlin be like, man, I cannot stand this dude. Like, just leave New England so I don't have to worry about a defense. Like. So I agree. I don't think owed is really a good term for that. I think he should have looked at it and said he was the best option I had out there for a defensive coordinator and a defensive assistant that I know is going to bring relevancy to it. Now, if Mike said, hey, I'm going to do this not only for my own benefit, but I'm going to do this to continue to show the rest of the NFL you all are making a massive mistake at not signing this man to another head coaching position, or at minimum signing him to another coordinator position. Because we have seen coaches, they're great coordinators, and then there's very few that become great coaches, and then for whatever reason they leave, they get fired, and then they just completely lose it. Like if you remember Chip Kelly when he was with the Eagles, never had a losing season with the Eagles, and they're like, and you're done. Now in my defense, I would easily say that's because you traded Shady McCoy for, again, what is with franchises like, yeah, I'll take the baked potato and like a Diet Coke for Shady McCoy. I'll cut Deshaun Jackson because I don't need him.
I thought all the players that fit his offense he cut. Like that's kind of, or moved off of. Like I thought Mike Vick was perfect for his offense, Shady McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, and then he goes and gets Sam Bradford, which made no sense. Got the Cowboys back. I forgot his name, but
DeMarco Murray.
DeMarco Murray is like that. They didn't fit the system. They're like, I don't know. It just didn't make sense what Chip Kelly was doing.
Yeah, because if you remember, and you remember like one of the first games that he played that they faced. No, that was Andy Reid. My bad. I'm thinking of that Monday night game where Donovan McNabb and Washington got absolutely obliterated by them. That was an Andy Reid led offense still, but yeah, Chip Kelly's whole entire scheme was speed. Yeah, that was his whole entire thing. Like, I'm just going to outrun you. Like, you can't do anything about it. And yeah, they cut him. So to me, Brian Flores showed I can still win. I can turn a franchise around. I've established a top defense in Miami in a short amount of time. And even with a crappy offensive line, no run game, and a quarterback that I didn't particularly believe in, I still got them to a winning season, and I still got them on the cusp of being in the playoffs. Just, unfortunately, too many lost games, as well as, just bad timing, to be 100% honest with you. So yeah, I agree. I don't think I don't think saying he owed it to him is really a good thing. If maybe Brian Flores like saved Mike Tomlin from like a car crash or something like that, I mean, I could see it, but we haven't heard anything that major happening. So I don't know why he put that particular verbiage in there. Yeah, and John also says the Hornets are going to upset a team. I could see that the East is just so you can still tell the East and the West are on entirely different spectrums when it comes to their gameplay. Like for the longest time it was the West is still the West is the powerhouse conference. They have some of the best players. The East kind of reestablished themselves. Some of the players left and went to the West, and now it's just a free for all. I did see a meme the other day. Amon, your Boston Celtics were the number 1 seed for a whole 24 hours.
I'm gonna take it. Congrats. It's so much pain went into that 24 hours, so I'm gonna hold those 24 hours, like Freddie holding on to 2012. I'm allowed to hold on to 24 hours.
So I mean, it is interesting because I don't think there has been a definitive number. There hasn't been a definitive number 1 seed at all the entire time in the East. First it was the Nets, then it was kind of the Bulls and the Bucks, then the Celtics, then the Heat, and then it's been that rotating circle back and forth for an extremely long time. At least in the West, it was the Suns and the Warriors and the Grizzlies in that order, just about the entire time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let me type this out real quick. So speaking of the Steelers, they still have a lot of holes that they have to plug in. They've quietly, to me, had actually a very good offseason. There are reports that they are potentially thinking about trying to get Baker Mayfield if the Browns let him go, i.e. pending probably the whole Deshaun Watson thing. But to you, what team do you think has the most to lose if they have a bad draft this particular season? Now, obviously, we know a lot of these teams, it is not a good quarterback draft. Malik Willis is probably going to be your best and brightest spot. Maybe Matt Corral. Maybe somebody, more than likely somebody who's going to reach for Kenny Pickett. It's going to happen. But this is mainly an offensive line and a defensive line draft. So if you're maybe a team, like Denver, that you maybe want to reassure that offensive line, you can do that in this draft. If you look at, really, you could even look at. There's another, you could look at Vegas. Vegas's offensive line is kind of shaky. They could the Cardinals could very easily, retool their offensive line for, Kyler Murray as well. So who do you think has the most to lose if they have a bad draft?
It's your favorite team, Tony, the team with the man from up north. It's going to be the Green Bay Packers. Look, when you're the Green Bay Packers and you had the offseason you had where you lose Devontae Adams, okay, you don't get a massive haul for Devontae Adams either, right? You go and get and lose MVS. You lose him as well. So you're down 2 receivers. You're down to Darius Smith also, who got out that offseason. And you gave Aaron Rodgers a $50 million a year contract. So you're kind of strangled to where you can't sign any big name free agents. You're kind of stuck with having to hit in the draft. And you're in desperate need of a receiver, of a defensive back, of an edge rusher. You could use another linebacker. You could use a lot of things. And now I think the Packers haven't been very bad at drafting. I know a lot of Packers fans who were pissed off at the choice of A.J. Dillon. They were pissed. I said, that's a great pick. And now they're telling me A.J. Dillon was a sleeper choice and look at how great we are. Well, they got to hit on A.J. Dillon every single round now. Because if they don't, there's so many holes in this roster and an NFC that's so depleted where you could just be okay and still walk into the Super Bowl. You wouldn't get past LA, you wouldn't get past Tampa right now. So you have to hit on your draft. You paid Aaron Rodgers all this money. Make it count. All right, you gave him the big contract. You gave him 3 years. Go work it.
Yeah. And Joe apparently says you do owe a nickel because you did say his name. Just throwing it out there. And Joe also says that our Indiana Pacers are going to be 2023 champions. # book it. I don't know about that one, Joe.
Because it'll be Phoenix, maybe Booker, but
right. I'm going to go with a little bit of a different team. I'm going to go with a team that, to me, honestly, is in the absolute best position. And I say this because they have the most first-round picks this year, And they have a core chance to at least build themselves up into being a competitive team once again. And I would say at least 2 to 3 years. I'm going to say Philly. You have the 15th and 16th pick back to back, and you have the 19th pick. So you essentially have 3 players that you can for sure get if you want them. And if you look at Philly, to me, I actually like Jalen Hurts. I know a lot of people aren't completely sold on him. He's a little bit kind of iffy with his pocket passing, with some of his awareness. But he's mobile. I will say, if you look at Philly, they finished 9-8 last year. Like nobody expected Philly to be 9-8. They were second in the East. They were second in the East, and really, they didn't have a bad game against Tampa. Yes, they lost, but they didn't really have a bad game, and they were competitive throughout the most part of the season. And if you look at what Philly has, Philly needs a wide receiver. They're in just a good enough spot. They could go and get one of these top round wide receivers, because you think about it. If we look at the draft order of a lot of these teams, Jacksonville's not going to take a quarterback. They're probably going to go defense. The Lions have Jared Goff. Now they could take somebody, or they could trade it away and try to get a haul for that pick, which is personally what I would do, because you don't really have a quarterback that you're going to try to get in this. Yes, more than likely, I think the idea is they would get Aiden Hutchinson from Michigan, which solid pick. Not going to deny that at all. But is that really going to be the impact player on your defense that you need to potentially turn the franchise around? So to me, get the second round pick. Kansas City has a couple extra picks they could burn. The team up north has kind of a couple extra picks they could burn. You have negotiation options that Detroit could do. And then really moving on from that, Carolina is potentially in the market for taking a quarterback. The Giants could very easily take a quarterback, even though, Danny Dimes is obviously the future. I don't know why.
I don't know why we're questioning it.
I know. Danny Dimes
is
a
conversation here.
The future. Like, as a Cowboys fan, I am ecstatic that Daniel Jones is the future in New York. If they don't re-sign him, that is a crime. Now, I don't want him on Dallas, but it's a crime if New York doesn't re-sign him. And let's see, the Falcons are probably going to take a quarterback. They're not going to go.
Yeah.
They maybe might go wide receiver, depending on what they want to do with Marcus Mariota, or if they're like, we'll kind of see what we got with him. We'll be in the market for a quarterback in a couple years anyway, because Atlanta is unfortunately in a very long rebuild. You've got the Texans in there. I think they're pretty solid. They're sold on Davis Mills. So, I mean, Philly's in a perfect spot. They could get a Chris Olave. Hell, they could get Chris Olave and the kid out of Alabama. Hell, they could get the kid from Georgia too if they want.
They can get every single one of them. They have a perfect opportunity for a wide receiver core that's not been great, and you can now add Devontae Smith to 3 other possible offensive weapons, and so Jalen Reagor's now your 4th option. You got now 4 or 5 first rounders at your receiving core. That's not a bad place to be. You know what I'm like.
With Dallas Goedert at tight end, who is fairly solid, and really after that, again, this is the best line. This is the best draft as far as offensive line and defensive line. You can have a perfect infusion of youth, quality starters on both sides of the ball, and then really after that, the only thing they have to fix is their secondary. Now they do need a running back, but they could very easily get a running. Hell, they could get a wide receiver. They could get Kenneth Walker, which I think there's a lot of people actually have him going to the Texans. I think they could get Kenneth Walker, and they could still get another wide receiver. They could get a defense back. Like the opportunity and the window is open for them to do so great with all these picks. I just hope they don't pull a Raiders or Miami a couple years ago when they had 3 picks and just blow them all on like garbage trash players that they're like, oh, well, we saw this guy, we like his film, and we're going to kind of reach for him to be our 15th overall pick. Like, why would you do that? No. Go with your safe options. This is your chance to be back in the seat after really 2 rebuild seasons of, hey, who do we have in Jalen Hurts? Carson Wentz isn't the guy anymore, and being able to move on from that. So to me personally, it's Philly, but I could see the team up north as well. I could also see Indy, because I feel like Indy is really the team right now that if you want to, you put a good wide receiver core with that, a good experienced Matt Ryan, they have the running game, they keep getting better on defense, and a top 3 offensive line. Indy could very well be another dangerous team that the
Yeah.
right pieces in the part of the draft, they could also be right there in the fold. Which, speaking of, if I can find our topics again, because I lost them. Who do you think has had the best offseason so far? Obviously, the Raiders are up there. They got Devontae Adams. They got Josh McDaniels as their head coach. They're starting to become the Patriots 2.0, which seems to be like the theme with every former Patriots coach. They're like, we're going to copy what we did in New England for whatever damn reason. You got the Dolphins, who hired Joe said, breaking news, Arians retires and Bowles is taking over, according to reports.
Yeah, I'm seeing that right now too.
I'm gonna have to look at that because that'd be big. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think Todd Bowles could very easily still be a good coach.
Yeah.
I think he was just the victim of, I want to go be a head coach. What
And
job is open?
New York. And he actually, to his credit, New York was decent when he was there his first 2 years. When they had Ryan Fitzpatrick and Brandon Marshall, they were beating the Patriots every now and again. They were in the playoff hunt. So it's not like he was terrible as a coach. So this could be something.
Yeah, but I will say too, he was there when the Bills were coming on the up and up.
Yep.
Dolphins are trash. Patriots are still the Patriots. So I mean, you kind of had a chance in the division. But let's see, when was he coached? 2015. It was 2015, wasn't it? Bulls NFL coach. So you signed in 2015, and then
4-year deal so I think
Yeah.
he got fired in 2019, and then they went with Adam Gase.
Yeah, which
I don't know how he got 2 AFC East teams to say, you know what, we'll give you a head coaching job. He got the Dolphins and the Jets to say, you know what, we'll give you one.
which is surprising because now that I look at it, in 2015 the Jets went 10-6, which is
That's what I'm saying. Like they were competitive when they had Fitzpatrick and Marshall there. They were, and then Quincy and Nunwall was in town, so they had pieces, and the defense was always good.
You know what's crazy? I couldn't remember the Jets actually having that good of a season in 2015. If you were to tell me that, I'd be like, absolutely not. There's no damn way that they were any type of decent in 20. Like, no, it didn't happen.
They beat the Patriots in overtime. I remember because Matthew Slater kind of had a miscommunication with the ref. So again, I think he got kind of the bad straw in the sense that he had to coach the Jets, and then the roster kind of depleted, and no, you're not going to get anybody in New York. But when you had pieces, he was good, and the offense is still going to be the offense. It's still going to be, the Brian Leftwich and Tom Brady show, and you can still just worry about the defense. I don't think much changes with Tampa, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I think if anything, it's almost a benefit for Tampa, because there was obviously reports that Tom Brady and Tom Brady and Arians didn't kind of really mesh well together, and which supposedly that was total crap. That wasn't actually the case. But you ever heard the rumor? Well, the whole theory that where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
Like that to me is what that kind of reminds me of, is that, that might be a little bit of a truth there.
There could be. And again, I don't think it affects the Bucks too much, because it's not like they're bringing in someone completely new. Todd Bowles knows what he's doing. He's been in the system for a while, and it was going to be him or Byron Leftwich to be the heir apparent. It's whoever's going to be there longer. And I guess Byron next year is going to be, somewhere else looking for a head coaching spot.
Yeah, sure enough, here it is. Via Peter King and MSN.com, Bruce Arians is retiring from coaching, moving on from the Buccaneers to their front office. And defensive coordinator Todd Bowles has been picked to replace him, and staff is being told the news at this hour. So this is something that apparently just recently decided to happen. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, because I think it gives Brady the full entire run of the offense, and I think Byron knows that, or not Byron. Todd Bowles knows that. He says, "Hey, I know you know how to run the offense. I've spent the last 2 years with you. You run the offense. I'll handle the defense, and we'll move forward from there." So I think it's big for Tampa. I think this kind of solidifies Tampa, and I think once Brady, if Brady retires, because for the love of God, that man will not stay out of football for like more than 5 seconds.
And I love it. Don't ever retire, Tommy. Play till I'm 60.
No, retire.
Play till I'm 60, Tommy.
God, retire. You don't need all the damn rings. Just freaking retire, man. He's gonna be 75 years old, still throwing damn passes. We have like 130,000 passing yards, 1,000 touchdowns. God.
Oh man.
I'll wait for the day it actually happens. Like when the new year starts, and there's the first game without Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. on the damn field. The first time in like 30 freaking years.
Hey, 30 more, Tubby. 30 more.
Absolutely not.
Joe.
I should not be able to go have like 6 individual lifetime careers and Tom Brady still be playing freaking football. But I think this kind of says a little bit for Tampa as well, because if you remember, Tampa got Bruce Arians out of retirement, because he was with the Cardinals, went to CBS as a broadcaster, as a sports analyst, and then, came over to, Joe said, until you're 60, that's like 60 years. You're not wrong, Joe. You're not wrong. But, so then he unretires, he comes to Tampa, like, oh, hey, he could fix Jameis Winston, and I don't think anybody can really fix Jameis Winston, although he did have a solid year with New Orleans, but I need to see a full season before I can
stay healthy and play 17 games. Let's see what happens.
And now that he's not seeing like quadruple vision because he got LASIK, he can see now. Yeah, right. He can see the dubs that he's supposed to be eating. I think this kind of shows Tampa, how confident were they that Bruce could get another quarterback and develop it? Because you think about it, he was with Pittsburgh and Ben Roethlisberger, established quarterback, goes to the Colts with Andrew Luck as a rookie, but Andrew Luck also came out of Stanford, the prodigal golden child. So
he was Trevor Lawrence before Trevor Lawrence. Like he was the guy. There was nobody else.
Yeah, you didn't really have to do much like coaching with Andrew Luck. Yep. Then you move on, you go to Arizona, and you get Carson Palmer, who, kind of that end of his career revitalization after, being in Cincy, going to Oakland, and now bouncing to Arizona. You get to kind of revitalize and establish Carson Palmer. But then you go to Tampa and you get Jameis Winston, who it's not like Jameis Winston was a rookie when you got him. He was what, a 4-year starter?
I think 3 at that point. I think he had 1 year with him. So I think the year he got there was his 4th year, I think. Or it might have been. I think you might be right. 4 years started. They did the 10-year.
Yeah, because they picked him up. They drafted him 2015, and then they let him go 2019 because they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They let him go.
Right.
So you had a year with him to work. Now, he statistically had one of his best seasons. He statistically also had one of his worst seasons.
It's a catch-22 with Jameis Winston.
It is. So it's like, is Brucey that good of a head coach? Because, you did get a lot out of Jameis, but Jameis was also killing you at the same time. So it's like, then he gets Tom Brady, again, already established. You don't really have to do much.
Right.
So it's like, if I'm Tampa, had Tom Brady retired, do you really trust him with the quarterback development? Because again, there's not one in the draft. Kyle Trask isn't bad. I like Kyle Trask. I remember watching him in Florida. I think the talent that he has there is similar to what he had in Florida.
Yeah.
He would have a decent tight end like he did in Kyle Pitts. He would have great offensive weapons. He'd have a run game. He'd have a defense. And at least he could take advantage of a weak division, and he's not playing in the SEC with Alabama, Georgia, and LSU. So he would have that going for him. But I like the hire personally. Do you like the hire of him, being the head coach? Do you think now he can actually be successful with Tampa and be able to actually rebuild his coaching resume from the dumpster fire that was the Jets?
Absolutely, I think Todd Bowles can, because again, he was 10-6, and again, it's going to be forgot in history because it's the Jets and the way it all ended over there. But he's going to have talent for maybe the first time in his NFL career. He's going to have a quarterback for maybe the first time in his NFL head coaching career. If you like Ryan Fitzpatrick, you like Ryan Fitzpatrick. But again, it's Tom Brady and Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're both 40-something years old, but one's got 7 rings for a reason. So he's going to have that guy there. He's going to have an offense established. Everything's established for him, and he just has to walk into a situation. And I think it's so perfect for Todd Bowles because talk about a guy who walked into basically one of the worst situations when Rex Ryan left. It was a bad situation there. The culture was bad. No one liked to be there. And he kind of flipped that around pretty quickly. And now he's in a position where everyone wants to be there. They're all bought in. He doesn't have to do much. He just has to come in and say, look, I'm still the same guy. I just have another title next to my name. But here's how we're doing things, and we're going to go win. And that's pretty simple. I think Todd Bowles can get it done. So I like the hire. And for future quarterbacking too, I think he can get it done.
Yeah. So now with that, because it's still technically the off season, what team has had the best NFL off season so far in your opinion?
Well, there's a lot of them, right? I think the craziest offseason that at least I can remember, it's been unbelievable, from the Chargers to the Bucks to the Browns getting Deshaun Watson, obviously a big deal. The Raiders getting Devontae Adams. But to me, the team that I don't think has gotten enough credit is the Cincinnati Bengals. And I've been singing their praises. They did a lot of their stuff day one. And it's just the offensive line. You talk about a team that was so explosive down the field, but they never had an offensive line. They didn't have it all year. Joe Burrow gets sacked 50 times. They pretty much lose the Super Bowl because they couldn't block Aaron Donald for more than a second. Because Jamar Chase had Jalen Ramsey beat. He was down there and he was beat. And then you go and add Alex Kappa, Ted Karras, Lyle Collins. So you're basically assuring your left side of the line. You can line them up pretty much in the same fashion, or you can move Ted Karras to right guard. It doesn't matter. You have a lot of flexibility there. I like what Cincinnati did because, again, they're still, to me, the best team in the North. I know you still have Cleveland there with Deshaun Watson. You still have Baltimore there with Lamar Jackson, and then whatever Pittsburgh is going to be. This team can easily walk out of the AFC. They're still one of the contenders there. And to get this, they automatically improve themselves. Joe Burrow is not getting hit 50 times a game, which is great. And he's got even more time to get the ball down the field to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and that's just going to make your offense better. So I think Cincinnati, maybe not as flashy of signings, but I think they have one of the better off seasons out of any team in the NFL.
I mean, I could definitely see it. The only reason, I mean, I agree. I think the Cincinnati had a really good offseason. The only reason I'm not sold on Cincy is because it's one of those, they managed to do what nobody expected them to do. And I think as a result now, because of that, they have a target on their back. People are going to coach against them and play against them significantly harder than what they did before. And of course, I know there's a few people, they hate the whole, strength of schedule type thing. Sometimes that kind of plays a factor. Sometimes it doesn't, but they're the kings of the AFC North. So now they have to play a first place schedule.
Right.
So I don't know I can't remember who the AFC North plays this year in rotation. I think it's, let's see, they faced the NFC East last year. So I think they faced the NFC South, and they faced the AFC? I think they faced the West last year, didn't they?
I don't remember what they did last year. I think, because they played Kansas City. Yep.
Yeah, they faced Kansas City. Oh, they played the NFC North last year. That's right. And then they played the NFC East the year before. So they should face the NFC West this year. So they'll actually have a rematch.
So they have the NFC South.
Oh, the South, okay, I was right.
The NFC South in there. They have looks like AFC East as well, with Miami, Buffalo, and New England. And then Baltimore. So I see Tennessee here, but I don't see any other team from the AFC South. Dallas is in here. Is any other NFC East team?
So they'll play the first division winner from the NFC East, and they'll face the first division winner
of the NFC South.
Of the AFC South.
AFC South, yep.
So you have to go
first division winner of the AFC West, Kansas City. They also play.
Yeah, so you have to face Kansas City again, who, yes, you beat twice, but you have to face Kansas City again. You have to face Tom Brady and the Buccaneers.
Yep.
You have to face, let's see, you said the AFC
East.
AFC
so Buffalo.
East. So you have to face Buffalo. You have to face a better Miami team. You have to face New England.
Yep.
You have the Jets, who you lost to last year.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right. Freaking Mike White is secretly the GOAT
He's
of
the
New
GOAT.
York
He's the
for
greatest.
whatever reason. And then you have to face, luckily, they have to face a little bit more of a depleted Dallas team than last year. Not going to be nearly as good as what they were last year. Hell, they're not even going to be as good as the team that beat Cincinnati when Joe Burrow was hurt a couple of years ago. And you have to face Derrick Henry, who is a cheat code amongst himself. So to me, I agree. I think they've had one of the best off seasons, but I think they're going to struggle in now what is, for whatever reason, like the Air Force Ones of the conferences with the freaking AFC. Mike, what is up, Mike? Because you got to think now they have to face the entire AFC West because all of them decided, hold my beer, let us be in contention now instead of the AFC North. You have Lamar and the Ravens, who you know are more than likely going to get better. It's just, will Lamar get a wide receiver? They lost a couple pieces on defense. Can they kind of replenish that in the draft? Pittsburgh is always Pittsburgh, even though they will have potentially a bad year. They're still usually a 500 team nonetheless. And then obviously you'll have Cleveland with a Deshaun Watson. Now the big question is will Amari Cooper show up or not? He will for home games, but not for away games.
Oh.
Shots fired. So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a cakewalk for them, to be 1,000%.
Yeah,
honest.
no, probably not. I think the one thing that I do like what they can do this year versus last year is I think they can be a little bit more they can be more balanced, because if the pass isn't working, they can now run the ball and actually run the ball with Joe Mixon and give him an offensive line. So I think you can create a lot more play action stuff, and I think they create another dynamic to that offense that they didn't really have. Sure, Mixon could run the ball last year, but you knew 90% of the time they're probably going to drop back and throw the ball down to Jamar Chase. This year, now you can go and you can actually run the football. You can run more screens. You can run the play actions off of it. I think that what this allows them to do is just keep teams on their toes and heels after, now teams have tape and they're really watching Jamar. They're really watching Joe. Now you just throw another wrinkle in, which I think always helps teams evolve.
Yeah, definitely. I guess if I had to pick a team that has had the better off season so far, I mean, obviously the Raiders are up there, the Dolphins are up there, the Browns. Like you said, the Cincinnati Bengals have, they're up there. I'm really trying to look. And it's funny too, because you think about it, some of these teams, they've had crazy off seasons. Like, to me, the Chiefs got a little bit worse because you got rid of Tyreek Hill and you're basically replace him with Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which don't know if you're going to be able to do. I think they definitely need to get a running back and kind of do the same thing that Cincy did. Like, yes, we know you can air it out, but you need to be more balanced. Now with Kansas City, they don't have a defense, because especially now that Honey Badger is gone and he hasn't been signed, Kansas City is
Ward.
Yeah.
Too many pieces.
The Chargers, I feel like didn't really do much. I mean, you got Khalil Mack, but you got Khalil Mack at kind of the end of his career now. I mean, don't get me wrong, he could still make an impact. He could still do like what Von Miller did, make a big impact that way. I think I will have to say the Raiders, and I say that because now they at least have an established coach that is going to be heavy offensive driven. You don't have John Gruden. You got Devontae Adams for Derek Carr. You still have Hunter Renfrow. You still have Darren Waller. You still have Josh Jacobs. They can rebuild the offensive line, and if they can reestablish the defense, I think they'll honestly be solid. I think the only thing that I would probably question on some of their defensive moves is they got rid of Yannick Ngakoue, which he was crazy. But they did get Chandler Jones, which to me was also an extremely solid pickup for them.
Another Patriot, right? You just throw him in the equation.
He is, but I don't know. I feel like Patriots players and Patriot coaches, that's, to me, it's like a 10% success rate outside of New England and like a 90% fail rate.
Yeah,
Like
100%. 100%. 100%.
To me, Chandler Jones was like one of the few players that left New England and was still just like, okay, I'm still a phenomenal player. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely. Trey Flowers went and got big money, and now is, a couple years later just is a free agent, not on any team's radar. Jamie Collins, another guy. Just
yeah,
the
Jamie
countless
Collins.
guys who just go out there, just never perform elsewhere.
And I mean, you do have a couple. What was it? Kyle Van Noy. He left, went to the
solid in
Dolphins.
Miami,
Actually, solid, and then came back, and he kind of disappeared again. You look at their offense. The only Patriots player I know that had any type of success offensively outside of New England was Wes Welker, and that's because he went and played with Peyton Manning. Like, it's hard to not be successful when you have two of the best quarterbacks of all time throwing to you like that. Yeah, so I honestly, I think it's the Raiders. I definitely could see the Bengals for sure, but I think now because the Bengals kind of established themselves and they proved, hey, you don't have to put in a whole lot as far as free agency goes. If you can do well in a draft and get the right quarterback, you can go anywhere, especially with Joe Burrow, because I definitely believe Joe Burrow is going to be one of the future best quarterbacks. And I'll be 100% honest with you, I'm going to be rooting for Joe Burrow so much when they play against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. And I hope Joe Burrow can say that he goes 1-0 against Tom Brady, because if he does, the very next episode of this show, I will come on smoking a cigar in victory with Joey B. No regrets. I will be ecstatic when that happens. Everybody and Joe, for you, #book it. If Joe Burrow beats Tom Brady, I will be on here smoking a victory cigar with him. 1,000%.
Yeah, the Buccaneers have some good games this year. I'm looking at the schedule with Brady back. You got the Chiefs, you got Burrow, there's a lot of good games coming back. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the whole entire pattern, every damn time Tom Brady loses a playoff game, what's he do the very next year? Wins a freaking Super Bowl every goddamn time.
We want number 8. We're going for it. Number 8.
No,
let's go.
No, tired. Stop it. You've already won. You're the best player at football ever. Okay, nobody statistically, you can't rings, whatever. You can't deny that. Just you won. Okay, nobody's beating you. You won. Knock it off. The man up north is. He's not even going to come to. Why are you worried? Why are you worried about trash coming after your records? Just stop it. Anyway, speaking of, which non-playoff team do you think goes the farthest in next year's NFL season? Whether it's you think they're going to do it right, if the season was to start right now, no draft, who do you think would do the best? Or do you think it's going to be one of those, depending on how the draft goes, some of these more non-playoff teams will probably sneak in there a little bit better?
So I want to say the Indianapolis Colts, because I think with Matt Ryan being there, they can still be a similar type of team with Carson Wentz and be there right on the brink of the playoffs. I'm just concerned because the AFC West is so loaded. The AFC North, you look at the Browns, you look at Cincinnati, you look at Baltimore. There's just so many teams I can see falling in there. And so I think while the Colts may be good, they might not. Joe, that's quick maths right there.
Exactly. #science. Exactly.
Quick maths. But they're just, the AFC is just so loaded this year that the Colts could be good, but they could still be on the outside looking in. So I'm going to say Washington. And I'm going to say Washington because you go get Carson Wentz. You go add him and give him an actual receiver for the first time in his career in Terry McLaurin. The offensive line is not as good. They did go and sign a guard after losing Brendan Sheriff. They basically traded guards with Jacksonville. The defense should rebound with Chase Young, and it's a young defense. Ron Rivera is a good head coach. And to be honest, I think Dallas might take a step back this year. You lose a couple of receivers, and the defense doesn't look as good. Philly, I don't know what they're going to be. If they hit in the draft, great, and they could be really special. If not, they could be on either side. So if you're Washington, you're looking at NFC, even as a wild card team, you're looking the whole division. There probably isn't going to be a wild card team from the NFC South, right? It's probably going to be Tampa, and that's it. Look at the West. You would look at Seattle's gone. So you're talking the Niners, you're talking the Rams, and you're talking maybe the Cardinals. You would throw in that conversation. The North, you could throw in the Vikings into the wild card conversation, but that's a big if. So if you're Washington, you could sneak in there as one of the 4 teams fighting for 3 spots if you don't win the division. So I think to me, Washington would be one of these teams that didn't make the playoffs. They got a quarterback that can move outside the pocket, the kind of guy Ron Rivera likes. Give him a number 1 receiver. They could be a non-playoff team that I think makes the biggest jump out of the ones from last year.
Yeah, if I had to pick one from each conference, I would say Washington, because even though a lot of people dog on Wentz, he is probably the best quarterback stability that they've had for probably quite a while. I would have really liked to see what Ryan Fitzpatrick would have been able to do last year had he not gotten hurt. Look, just because you don't fear the beard, everybody else fears the beard. Okay, let him throw on the Jameis Winston attire. Watch what happens.
Oh,
It's
the Deshaun Jackson stuff going on. That's
whole
great.
new Ryan Fitzmagic. Okay, like that's the man that Tom Brady needs to fear, because he beat him on 3 different teams and all in the AFC East.
He did.
Except for the freaking Patriots. Which I'm just waiting for him to be like, yeah, I'm just going to complete my AFC East rotation. I'll go to New England.
Throw me in for a game. Just throw me in, coach. Mac can start the 16 others. Just let me play one.
Mac Jones gets hurt. Ryan Fitzmagic is your man. Give him number 14. Hand it over. So I agree. I think Washington is definitely it. Like you said, Terry McLaurin. Carson Wentz was actually really big on Terry McLaurin too. He even talked about how he wished he could play with him one day on the same team. Again, Washington, I'm not sold on their offensive line. Was shaky to start with. You lose Brandon Sheriff. You get Andrew Norwell from Jacksonville, who was solid. He was solid with Carolina. He's been solid with Jacksonville. So I think he'll be good for Washington, but they still have a lot of holes there in there. Now they hold the number 11th pick, so they could very easily get a very top offensive lineman right off the bat with that. Even as a Cowboys fan, as much as I hate to say this, if I'm Washington, I'm getting Tyler Lindenbaum, the center out of Iowa, because he's probably the best center in the draft. And again, shore up the person snapping you the ball. And then you can shore up everything else in kind of the later rounds.
Right.
But I would probably agree with Indy. I think Indy was honestly just a quarterback away. Now I think it's mainly their wide receiver core, but now you have a quarterback who gets a fresh start in a I can't really say that Georgia's even cursed. I think just Atlanta specifically is cursed.
28-3, it's just Arthur Blank came down, and that's the moment it happened. That's the moment it happened. He came onto the field at halftime, and then everything changed.
Like, and I don't know if you saw the meme where they were talking about how he got traded for the 3rd round pick, the 82nd overall, and if you flip that, it's 28-3. I'm like, why do y'all do this to this poor man? Just let him live in peace. Like, if I was Matt Ryan, I would just cry all the time. Like, bad thoughts all day.
That's never going away, man. That's never going away.
Right. It really is. And to be
especially
honest,
with the internet.
Like, oh no. Like the whole Will Smith thing, that's forever a meme. Like, that's not going away ever. I'm waiting for it to be a 28-3 meme. I'm hoping it happens.
It was. I saw it on Instagram this morning. It said having a 28-3 lead, the 2016 New England Patriots is Will Smith. So
I was waiting for it. I know it's going to happen. But no, I think it's Indy again. If Indy can do well in this draft, as far as getting a core group of wide receivers, maybe even get a veteran in there, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr. There's obviously the little bit of the cryptic / bait tweets of, I kind of see what they're doing in Indy. Maybe I might head there, which typically a lot of players, once they go to Indy, they love it.
Yeah.
It's being from there. Not that I'm, biased or anything like that. It's a cheap place to live. You're great as far as central location goes. You're close to Chicago. You're close to Pittsburgh. You're close to Cincinnati, Columbus. Those are just the Midwestern cities. I mean, you're still in the Eastern time zone. So, I mean, and again, everything around Indiana is cheap because it's all corn and soybeans. So, I mean, you got options.
You're making a good sell here, man. You're making a good sell.
And I mean, if anything, and if you're a trouble player, you don't have to worry. Go out in the cornfield. Nobody will find you. You'll be fine. There's no bad options available there because there's nothing in there. Nothing. And it's a well-run organization.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say the Colts in Washington by far. Probably the two non-playoff teams that I could see again making a big push. If it weren't for the fact that Philly made the playoffs, I would have easily said Philly, and I think
Right.
Philly will still make the playoff, make a big push. I do agree. I think Dallas will take a step back. Unfortunately, I could easily see Dallas falling to the 3rd spot in the NFC East. Again, depending on how well Philly drafts, and with Washington now having a quarterback, if their defense can return to perennial form, Washington will 100% be a foe to contend with, and they will, quote, command the NFC East.
Well, there is a third team now that I'm thinking about it, and I didn't say them because I thought they did make the playoffs. The Cleveland Browns. You had Deshaun Watson, and if he can play, I don't know how many games he can play. If we're assuming it's 6 games that he's not going to play, you're still left with 11 games. If you go 11-6, you're going to make the playoffs, or you should be around that range. So I forgot Cleveland didn't even make the playoffs. So I could see Cleveland being that team that makes the biggest jump because, to be honest, it's a Super Bowl roster. They're just a quarterback away. And if Deshaun Watson catches fire, that team catches fire, and everything goes the right way, they could be holding the Lombardi Trophy at the end of the year.
I believe. To me, though, Cleveland almost took kind of a step back because they did get the quarterback, but now who do you have at wide receiver?
Yeah, that's the question.
You have Amari Cooper and you have Donovan Peoples-Jones, which, don't get me wrong, I watched Peoples-Jones in Michigan. He wasn't bad. He was solid.
He's a good third option. He's a good third option.
But you need a 2. And
you need a 1, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, you do. Well, like I said, I'm also a big proprietor of if you have enough decent number 2s, you don't need a number 1.
100%.
But yeah, if you're not going to have a decent number 2, even you definitely need a clear number 1. Team up north. But again, that's just me particularly. Not again, Joe. I don't owe a nickel. Actually, Joe's not even one, so we're good. Amon, anything else that you got before we tune off, and we will see everybody next week?
Well, one more Will Smith meme. The NFL offseason to all of us. That's basically what the NFL offseason has been. It's just been one slap in the face after another. So it was kind of fitting that it happened as everything's kind of cooling down.
Right. Well, cooling down for the moment.
And heated back up right in the middle, right? We had the whole Todd Bowles thing happen right during the middle of the show. So
actually, you know what I kind of hope happens? I hope that there's draft day drama where there's a team, say the Giants is just you know what? Screw you, Atlanta. We're taking Malik Willis. And Atlanta just, comes up on stage, bitch slaps him.
Oh my goodness. There's too many memes out of this, man. This is right under 28-3. This will be the thing that lives on forever.
Oh, I hope it does. God, I hope it does. All the music videos, the Bruno Mars song, the raps that are out there about as long as you can't talk about my wife, but if you sleep with her, I'm okay with that.
Oh my God, the troll is coming out full-fledged at the end of this, man. Will Smith, watch out.
Right. Hey, look, I said it before. I'll say it again. I don't understand how Jada can take a dick, but she can't take a joke. I'm just really confused as to why it can't happen. I also saw a meme that she apparently looks like Jinzo from Yu-Gi-Oh, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Well, Will Smith got into one little fight and his mom got scared, so he's going to live with his uncle and auntie out in Bel Air. So
hey.
That show's a little bit before my time, but I know that one. It's kind of enough.
Watch, we're gonna come on next show. We're both getting bitch slapped at the same exact time.
100%.
Well, it's gonna be the one time a celebrity watches our show so far in the beginning, and then we're gonna get bitch slapped for it.
Oh man.
All right, man. It has been fun, everybody. Thank you all again for watching. Amon, always a pleasure, always a blast. And we will be on next week, hopefully with Joe. We're going to continue on the Jeopardy excursion. I have to say I'm kind of a shitbag. I haven't done my Jeopardy board yet.
I got this week. Don't worry. I got this week.
Right.
Week.
So I got time to do it. But we will see y'all next week, and we will be back with a Jeopardy episode. So y'all take care. Have a good night. If I can find, there it is.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information, hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport all